All right, Patreon. We got a lot of news here, man. And well, this isn't really news, but yeah, it kind of is. So MLW and Impact seem to be working together right now.
Mhm.
They seem to have some type of working relationship. It's very new. Obviously, at Slammiversary, Davey Richards showed up, and then afterwards, after the pay-per-view was over, Sean Ross Sapp went on to Fightful Select and said that there's something to that we could be seeing more of this in the future. Well, it just dropped, so this is a spoiler. So please, spoiler for the Battle Riot show. Sammy Callahan shows up at Battle Riot, which is very interesting because Sammy Callahan was once fired by MLW for trashing one of the venues that they were working at
I
in
believe
Milwaukee.
Cicero Stadium.
No, it was I think it was
Oh, it was
Milwaukee, wasn't
Milwaukee.
it?
Okay, I thought it was in Chicago. Okay.
It was one of those plays, but he had a hardcore match. Was it with Mance Warner?
Mance Warner.
Yeah, it was with old Manser. He had a hardcore match with Manser, and then he destroyed the place, and they got fined or something like that. So he ended up getting shit canned by Court Bauer, and he wasn't allowed back. But he showed up as a representative of Impact Wrestling on MLW Battle Riot. So before I hit you with an idea, what do you think about this new working relationship with MLW and Impact?
I don't know. I'll say this. I think some of the best relationships are when people need something from someone else and like it's mutual, right? Like I think the AEW Impact relationship, AEW is in a much stronger position, right,
Yeah,
than Impact. I think these two companies find themselves on more equal footing. I think we at Impact have a better structural system, better television network, uh, a little bit more stability. Whereas MLW, say what you want about Court, he's a hustler, right? He
yeah.
makes a bunch of like really small time deals, but he makes a bunch of deals. And one thing MLW has over Impact is they're way better at selling tickets.
Yes, yes.
You know,
That's what I wanted to get at.
yeah.
Because I'm like, what does Impact get out of this? Well, Court Bauer can sling tickets. He
hmm
knows how to penetrate the local markets. He knows how to find stars that will sell tickets in those markets, and he'll bring
You
them in.
know, he's really good at doing too. He's really good at making news and knowing how to get people talking about him. I mean, like I dog on MLW all the time because it's kind of a gimmick. Um,
Yeah,
But Court's really good about getting people to talk about his product.
yeah.
So I do think this is a good move for Epic. You proposed something. I think I'm not sure it was on your Twitter or in our group
I
about
think it
them
was in our
just
chat.
just merging all together. Whereas because
That
Court's always looking for money and they're always I think Court I haven't loved the last year plus of MLW, but I do think Court's a better booker than what
yeah.
we've got currently.
Well, so my idea was, and I'm gonna put this out to the Brace for Impact Nation, to the faithful out there. My idea is that the two companies should merge because I think, and this is not going to happen, by the way, but this is just
Probably
me
not.
spitballing an idea. I think that they are better together than they are separately. Look, they're using some of the same talent. Taya Valkyrie goes back and forth and stuff like that. They work a lot of the same venues, and when they do them separately, they end up hurting each other. Now,
Mhm.
Impact, like we said, their strengths, they have the exposure and they have the billion-dollar backers and they have the network and they have all that stuff. But where they lack is creative, they lack in marketing, and they lack in live event strategy, right? So where they have the better, way better production, they have a better announce crew, they have the better roster, I would say.
Mhm.
But MLW, they are much better at slinging tickets, at marketing, at strategies and stuff like that. I think that if they were just to combine forces, right, and you have Scott Demore as EVP over here and Court Bauer, EVP of live event marketing and creative, and then Scott Demore business strategies and talent relations and stuff like that, and they can kind of come together with some of the ideas. I think the two companies coming together would be much stronger than them just staying apart, because I think staying apart they end up just hurting each other. And you could bring over MLW Fusion onto one of the Anthem properties, and then and expose it to a bigger audience. I don't see why you couldn't do something like that. So that was my idea. I don't know if you bring NWA into that deal or not, but those two companies specifically, I was thinking would just be better if they were just the same.
You know, I don't think it would hurt Access to be a combat sports channel, right? Because they do a lot of MMA. It wouldn't. I don't. As long as they wanted it, remember like the idea of the Destination America when they had Impact and Ring of Honor back to back? Like I was as a fan, I loved it. Right.
Hmm.
Unfortunately, Ring of Honor just gave them their Sinclair show and it didn't last more than a month, I don't think. But I
No.
mean, if we could try to, like the old Penasino block, do that basically Thursday nights, because if you could have MLW, Impact, New Japan, I think you have something that hardcore wrestling fans would watch. And I'll be honest with you, MLW's TV ratings are really bad. So if you, because again, their biggest match ever was last year, and it was bad. Like it was a really bad rating, and it's what's
Yeah,
going to hurt them in their lawsuit.
they lost over 60% of the viewership of their lead-in program, which is really bad.
It's really bad.
Um, yeah. I think they could do about the same as what New Japan is doing on Access. New Japan's kind of they have the bigger stars, but they're a colder product on television, at least. Like live event, they're not cold at all. They're actually doing pretty good, but on television, it's kind of cold. So they're losing a lot of the audience that Impact has. But
I think
I think MLW could probably do around the same.
Well, I think the difference is the New Japan show we get is a rerun by the time anyone who cares
Yeah.
about New Japan has seen it. So they're not trying really. It's just out there to try to find new viewers or people who just like to watch wrestling. Like if you like New Japan, you know what's going to happen. Like it's weeks old shows. Whereas Fusion would at least be a new show, right?
Hmm.
And like Courts had it everywhere. So I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
like it seems like it'd be a match that would really make a whole lot of sense. And I don't know. Part of me is like, hey, MLW Impact sounds pretty good as like a
Yeah.
television program. Like I wouldn't hate that if the two things did merge. I think that's something. Are we at the point where there's too many wrestling products right now?
Yes, and that so I even said it last week, but I think it might have been during Slammiversary. It was like MLW, NWA, and Impact existing are all hurting each other
I
because
agree.
they're sharing the same talent, they're working the same towns, and each time they work those same towns, the audiences get less and less and less. They really should just work together to beef things up and do these super shows and stuff like that. So I don't know if it means just all coming under that Anthem umbrella and creating a new name and merging all the titles or whatever that would look like. But I think there's so much competition from all these independent shows and all these cities that are running that like Impact will go to Chicago, but Warrior Wrestling will probably sell more tickets than Impact. Right.
I agree.
That's just that's the reality of the situation because Warrior Wrestling, they have access to all the AEW, New Japan, and Impact talent, and they can do it just willy nilly, and then all they have to do is focus on that local market, and they can sell tickets, and they can just do work once a month. And now Impact's going to go into that town with some of the same talent, and they're not going to get. They might get 75% of the audience of Warrior Wrestling gets, right? So they have competition from obviously AEW, WWE, New Japan, right? But then now they have competition with each other, and then you add on GCW, and then
ECW.
all the independent shows that are in all these towns that they're going into. It's like they're all just going to end up hurting each other. It's
Mhm.
weird. So I think those three companies specifically need to figure something out.
Every company wants to be ECW and they want to be the number three that runs behind the big two that runs nationally. And that's really difficult, right? So a lot of these places like Defy, like Warrior, like
Yeah.
I can't think of it off the top of my head now.
A-
Like all these
AIW,
AIW,
Prestige, Prestige in
Prestige,
Portland, and
yeah.
West Coast Pro Wrestling in
West
San
Coast
Francisco.
Pro.
Yeah.
Yeah, all
Yeah.
these places that have these little pockets carved out like old school territories, right? Are doing very well because they can bring your stars into their town to see their show. Warriors starting to branch out a little bit. I'd warn them, don't go too far because
Mhm.
you shouldn't try to be GCW. You work because you're not GCW. Like it's a bad idea. And DCW has an advantage. They just run these like super shows every couple of weeks, every month or whatever. They're not working TV, right? They don't have to have like storylines, like legitimate, like, episode, like serialized formatted television. So they're playing a different game. And like MLW and Impact and like you said, NWA are trying to do that more old school television professional wrestling model. I agree. I think they cannibalize each other. I think that should be some contraction as opposed to expansion.